there's a hidden thread connecting some of the world's most distant people. A thread made not of myth or migration stories but of DNA. Scientists have uncovered shocking genetic markers that link tribes from Southeast Asia to the Pacific Islands, and even to parts of Africa. How is it possible that isolated islanders, highland tribes, and coastal communities thousands of miles apart share ancient roots? The answer lies buried in our blood, and it's rewriting everything we thought we knew about early human history. In the past decade, advances in genetic sequencing have allowed researchers to examine the deepest layers of human ancestry, and when they looked closely at the DNA of indigenous groups across Asia and Oceania, something strange appeared. In tribal communities in the Philippines, Papua New Guinea, the Solomon Islands, and even in the Andaman Islands near India, there are traces of an ancient species, one that doesn't exist anymore. This isn't Neanderthal DNA, which many Europeans and Asians carry. This is Denisovan DNA. Denisovans were an archaic human species who lived tens of thousands of years ago in Asia. We don't know what they looked like. We only have bone fragments. But what we do know is this: they mixed with modern humans in ways that still leave echoes in our genes today. One of the most fascinating discoveries is that some Pacific Islanders, like the people of Papua New Guinea and Aboriginal Australians, carry up to 5% Denisovan DNA. That's far higher than anyone else on Earth. It's as if these ancient ancestors left a permanent fingerprint in the genetics of the Pacific. But here's the twist: isolated mountain tribes in the Philippines, like the Ada Magbucan, were recently found to have even higher levels of Denisovan ancestry than anyone else, shocking scientists worldwide. These people didn't migrate to Papua New Guinea or Australia, they stayed on their islands. To understand this, we have to rethink how early humans moved. For years, the dominant theory was that humans migrated out of Africa, spread through the Middle East, and branched off slowly through Asia and Europe. But recent DNA and archaeological evidence suggests something more complex. That humans were island hoppers, not just land walkers. That sea travel existed far earlier than we thought, tens of thousands of years ago. That ancient humans moved in waves, sometimes from south to north, not just west to east. The Philippines, Indonesia, and the surrounding islands were not just remote, they were crossroads. Meeting points for different branches of early humans, including the Denisovans. And that's why the DNA there is so rich and unique. Now here's where it gets even more unexpected. Certain genetic markers found in Southeast Asia and the Pacific are also shared, in small but significant ways, with African hunter-gatherer populations, like the Hadza and the San people. How is that possible? Some scientists believe this may be the result of deep ancestry, lineages that trace all the way back to early humans before they split into distinct groups. Others think there may have been reverse migrations, ancient people from Asia making their way back to Africa. What's clear is that the lines we draw on our maps today, Asia, Africa, Oceania, didn't exist for our ancient ancestors. To them, land and sea were not boundaries, they were pathways. Few places are as genetically mysterious as the Andaman Islands, a remote Indian Ocean archipelago. The indigenous people there, like the Jarawa and the Onge, have lived in near isolation for thousands of years. Their features resemble those of African tribes, but genetically, they are more closely linked to Southeast Asians and Pacific Islanders. Again, Denisovan traces appear, along with unique mutations not seen elsewhere. They stand as living proof of a time when the world was smaller, migration was fluid, and identity wasn't boxed in by continents. For years, human history was told in a straight line, out of Africa into Asia, up to Europe, across the Bering Strait. But the DNA doesn't lie, and what it's telling us now is that history isn't linear. People weren't just moving in one direction, they were mixing, returning, diverging, and evolving in unexpected ways. The tribes of the Pacific, the highland peoples of Southeast Asia, and the isolated islanders of the Indian Ocean are not forgotten outliers. They are living time capsules. And it's not just genes. Oral stories, myths, and customs passed down for generations in these communities echo with truths that science is only now beginning to uncover. Stories of sea crossings, of ancestors who lived in caves or mountains, of visitors who came from far away, long before colonial ships ever arrived. In some cases, cultural practices, from boat building to musical instruments to burial methods, share uncanny similarities between distant groups, further hinting at a shared ancient connection. So why does this matter? Because for millions of people around the world, especially those from island nations or indigenous roots, the dominant narrative has always been, you come from somewhere else. You don't matter. Your story starts when the colonizers arrived. But that's not true, the DNA says otherwise. These communities don't just have a history, they have one of the oldest, one that shaped modern humans, one that carried knowledge across oceans before empires were born. The people of these islands and highlands aren't the footnotes of history, they are the authors of a chapter we're only now beginning to read. So next time you look at a map, remember those scattered islands, those winding coasts, those far-off mountains, that they hold more than just geography. They hold the memory of who we are. And through the lens of ancient DNA, they're whispering a powerful truth. We are more connected than we ever imagined.